State. As of Monday morning, Texas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Stanford, Arizona, and NC State have punched their tickets to Omaha. Virginia and Dallas Baptist will square off in Game 3 on Monday afternoon with a deciding game between Notre Dame and Mississippi State beginning around 6 p.m. For all your latest sports news and updates, keep it tuned right here to 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
And here we go.
You're in the recruiting hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You're the 2 o'clock.
Yes, I am.
Here are your hosts, Mike Schaefer and Connor Happer. Brought to you by Bubbles and Blocks.
Welcome into the recruiting hour. Mike Schaefer, Connor Happer here on 93.7 The Ticket. Yes, it is I, Mike Schaefer, once again back doing radio here. And Nebraska picking up commitments as they often do. I'm technically on vacation today from my actual job. And so as generally happens, Nebraska picks up their commitments when I'm not around, even though, I'm in town today. So this one, I think
You're
give credit
technically
to
not
this
around.
one. Well, I don't have to be around, I guess is sort of the actual answer there. But Nebraska picks up a commitment, Richard Torres, on Monday here to start off the week of what I think is going to be, and I'm not alone. But
are we calling it Mitt Week?
Well, we'll see. It needs to have more than one Mitt to be Mitt Week. Probably 3 gets to be Mitt Week, but we'll see how that plays out. But we've talked on this show normal most of the time about where this was headed with Richard Torres. He took that visit to Kansas State. He had the quotes to Tim, one of our contributing writers at Husker 24/7 at the camp, where he's basically like, yeah, after the Kansas State visit, it's just going to be done. Here it is, the Monday after that visit. Not a giant surprise. Nebraska has a quarterback commitment. They picked up a commitment from Tyreek Johnson. I think they had picked up that commitment well before Saturday, but Tyreek Johnson announces he is going to go from Ohio State to Nebraska out of the transfer portal, defensive back, and we will get into all of that. There's so much to discuss, and we have Parker Gabriel joining us at 2:30. So there's just a lot going on, but I have missed a few days. What was going on around here? What was happening in the state of Nebraska from Wednesday on?
I don't think much has changed, Schaefer. It might surprise you to hear that.
I was expecting hustle and bustle, fast pace.
Considering that things usually change quickly around here. I'm trying to think of one notable thing that happened in the last 5 days.
Nebraska's quarterback remains a lightning rod of controversy.
Yes. Yeah.
You're right. Nothing changed.
No, nothing really changed at all. Nick has something. Yeah, we tried Rocky Mountain Oysters.
Did DP try him?
No.
You couldn't get him on board?
No.
And you ever had them before?
Yes.
Yeah. They're perfectly fine.
They're perfectly fine.
Like, I think too much gets made about it in every possible direction.
I agree.
But it's again, perfectly fine. Nothing about it needs to be like overstated, but I'm glad that went well. All right. Well, speaking of consistency,
nice.
A beacon of consistency, a model of consistency. We have a call, and it is from Mike. Mike, what's going on?
Not much. Hey, before I get to my Husker question, are they going to be making a movie about your bachelor party? Or?
I don't know that it would rise to the level of movie worthy, but it was a good time. I think everybody left, and they got the full-fledged New Orleans experience, pretty much everything you would want to experience down there, save for we didn't get to Cafe Du Monde, the beignets. And we tried. The line was going to be... The line was going to be 2-some hours.
It goes fast, though.
I know, and the first time I had done it, it did go really fast. This time it seemed kind of slow, and basically everyone's like, we can get them somewhere else. Some people did, some people didn't. That was like one of the few things. And then the other small regret I have, we didn't get to a live jazz performance on the quarter. We hit a bunch of places on the quarter and on Bourbon and everything else, but we never got like a live jazz experience. So other than those two things, the bachelor party trip went very well. I don't think a movie would be made, but I did get to see my best man for some stupid reason think that he was going to win a game of chess.
That was great
on Bourbon Street.
It was a great picture.
And he got appropriately hustled. It was fantastic. I mean, that might have been one of my favorite things. So that would be a cutscene in the movie for sure.
Well, I'm glad it went well. Well, hey, to win a conference title or even a Big Ten West title, I think you need either all conference players or definitely some guys that are in the conversation. So I just kind of made a list of guys who I think could be in that conversation at some point. I was hoping to take older guys, but it seemed like a lot of them are kind of a small sample size. So if I am correct, which I'm probably not, that says a lot about where the top talent is. But I'm on a list here. Could you guys tell me who you would have left off this list and who you would have added? But on offense, I'd say, Thomas Fidone, Turner Corcoran, Cam Jurgens, if he can get his snapping issues solved. I thought Bryce Benhart, and I mean, it's early, but I thought he was inconsistent at times this year. So I don't know that I'd put him down there just yet. And Omar Manning and possibly Xavier Betts. Seems like he did a lot of sweeps and things like that. Not a ton of catches. And beyond that, I can't think anyone on offense. I mean, I definitely don't think you can put Martinez on there. Hopefully Gabe Urban at some point, but there's no way you can guess that now. On defense, I'd say Casey Rogers, Ty Robinson. I like Nash Hutmacher. Again, small sample size, but I think a guy that I think he was undefeated nationally in wrestling, which really helps on the line with your, balance and things like that and that technique, and he's very strong. JoJo Doman, I'd like to think either Nick Hendricks or Luke Reimer could possibly be in there, one or the other, and then Cam Taylor-Britt. And that's my list. Wondering who you guys would have, who I should have taken off. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Mike. We will run through these, and I'm actually curious where some of these might come in at. I think there might be one omission, and if we're doing all conference, and that's 3 teams deep, or is that 2 teams deep?
I don't know. I guess 3.
I can't remember. I was trying to. I think they
do 3. I think.
Yeah. Well, they have like the honorable mentions. I don't know if that doesn't maybe count. Is that doesn't third. Count. So let's just say it's 2.
No, they have 3 teams and honorable mentions.
Okay, let's just say top 2 teams. Is that fair?
Okay.
The only other name that I might have briefly considered that Mike didn't touch on, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it's sort of dependent on how the rest of the conference has. I think Austin Allen could have the kind of year that would warrant that, but there's enough other tight ends in the conference that includes Iowa and Penn State that generally have gotten more production out of it, that it would have to be kind of a wonky year that Austin Allen would have, say, double-digit touchdowns and like 500 yards. Maybe that gets you on the second team all Big Ten. Mm-hmm. The only person that I thought Mike maybe left off there, was there any other names that you could think of?
Not as he went through, no.
Yeah. And then, I mean, in reality, of the names that he went through, there's not a lot that I feel confident in saying will be at some point in their career, but let's run through this. I mean, I think Fidone has a ton of potential. We have no idea what he will be until he actually is able to get on the field, which may not be in 2021.
That would be the expectation for him, though.
But the idea is that he was an all-conference guy. I think Turner Corcoran will eventually be an all-conference offensive lineman.
Yeah, that one seems like almost the most sure bet.
Out of everybody?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Cam Jurgens, I agree generally with the assessment from a talent perspective. Could be an all-conference Big Ten lineman, but has to be more consistent in terms of the snapping. If you can get rid of it entirely, you have no issues there. From talent alone, I think that he could be on there. Some of it, though, I mean, I think it's hard to be an all-conference offensive lineman if other people in the conference don't think your offensive line is anything special. It's some of getting voted into this is just being regarded on a special offensive line. Like individual pieces, I think it's hard to break through unless you're also have draft status attached to it as well. It's harder for that position than any other. And so you could have Turner Corcoran could be really good, but he also needs Nebraska to run the ball well. Like the offense has to play better than what it has. Like that's the reality of this is no one gets to be in an all-conference situation for an offense that's going the wrong direction in points scored and yards per game.
True.
So that makes that relatively difficult. Bryce Benhart, I doubt we would ever see him on an all Big Ten list, unless, the offensive line and the running game really blows up. I think Omar Manning is very unlikely to me. I still don't know what exactly you're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
From a potential standpoint, again, really like Xavier Betts. I threw down Samari Toure, like if he just had a monster year. But Big Ten receivers are better than I think people might realize. I mean, you just get good productive years out of teams throughout the conference at wide receiver, so that's a pretty competitive spot. And then
the same thing with the offensive line, obviously.
Yeah,
too.
right, definitely. And then, I agree with leaving Adrian and Gabe Ervin off. I don't know what the season would have to be for Adrian, and Nebraska would have to win 9 games, I think, in addition to whatever he does statistically for him to end up as an all Big Ten quarterback at this point as well. And Gabe Ervin, we just don't know enough about. And it's the same thing with a lot of these defensive guys. I like Casey Rogers a lot. I think he's good with the Nebraska program. I don't know that the production is going to be so good unless that defense is the best in the conference that he's going to move into being an all Big Ten first or second team.
Yeah, he also doesn't feel like
he's not going to go get 12 sacks.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like a standout to me.
Right.
It's obviously really important for what they're doing. But
of those 3 defensive line guys, Ty Robinson probably seems like he'd have the best chance based on pedigree. And so I'm including Nash Hutmacher in that. Here's the area where I think you could see some guys potentially pop up because you can flash defensively, regardless of your team's overall talent. Like statistically, a JoJo Domann and a Luke Reimer, I think, could play their way onto that roster. I think those guys have really good, if you're ranking this list, I think they're in your top quarter for sure. And then Nick Henrich, with the way he came on at the end and how good he was in high school, he's one of those guys that I think could make a really big jump. Again, don't know that it's going to be an all Big Ten type thing, but he has that kind of, potential and talent. So we'll see, how that plays out. And then Cam Taylor-Britt, another guy that I expect to sort of be on that list.
Yeah, he would be.
We mentioned Turner Corcoran. Cam Taylor-Britt should be one. And
Cam Taylor-Britt probably already has, right?
Yeah. I think he was second team this last year. So he would be one, and then Turner Corcoran 2.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just hard to.
Connor Culp was on the list last year too. He could be back again this year.
It's hard to project. It's hard to know that stuff. I don't think Mike's wrong though in noting those guys as the contributors. But that's all conference level is pretty good. and Nebraska obviously hasn't had a lot of those lately, but you're right, Schaefer. They win a whole bunch of games. They win 7, 8, 9 games. You're going to get recognized for that with guys ending up on all conference teams. So a lot of it is that part of it too.
Yeah. And team success is definitely going to dictate some of that. I mean, if we had to sit here and guess right now, and you set the number at 2.5 for a first or second team all Big Ten for 2021, I think we would imagine we're both taking the under on that.
I would take 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically, I mean, that's the reality. Now you go and you have the season that you're not expected to have. That number could be 5 and no one would blink.
Yeah. The conversation about all conference guys really surrounds, I mean, we're talking about standouts and it's been a few years since Nebraska's even really had a standout on the team. They've had standouts for their team and best players on their team, but I don't think they've had guys that other teams, coaches, fan bases have looked at and been like, oh, that guy could, play at Ohio State or, whatever that is.
And that's one of the hard things of, when your program's in sort of this receding run that Nebraska has been like, and you have a guy like Luke Reimer or Austin Allen or whatever, someone that pops up and they're a little bit surprising in terms of their production and they look good playing with Nebraska, but you extrapolate it out against what it looks like with the rest of the conference. And I doubt there's a lot of fan bases that know who most of these pieces are.
No doubt.
At this point. Like Adrian's still the biggest name that Nebraska has, and neither one of us would include him on this list at this point in time, which is unfortunately a pretty strong reflection of how this program is viewed and where it sits and how far away it is from the goals that it has.
Yep, and that's a lot of the battle.
So now that we've depressed everyone, let's talk about recruiting.
Happy Monday.
Yeah. So Nebraska picked up its quarterback commit. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show, Richard Torres. Not like I said, not a surprise to the listeners that have kind of heard us talk about this in May. It very much seemed like he was the front runner on Nebraska's internal board, even if externally the conversation was a lot about MJ Morris. And I think in no short part, Nebraska is enamored with the tools that a Richard Torres has. And again,
He's toolsy.
he's not the highest rated guy, which of course is going to always cause consternation. But Nebraska, from an evaluation standpoint, looked at Richard Torres and basically viewed him as someone that, with the tools that he possesses, they think has tremendous upside. And it's not all that dissimilar to last year with Heinrich Haarberg. They're different players. Like I don't want to make the player comparison there, but the idea is that they have that skill set. Nebraska is enamored by the upside of it. Now the floor may not be particularly high all the time with that,
Yes.
but from a sheer upside, they see physical traits and tools that could work really well on the offense and maybe overcome some of these hindrances.
Yeah, and this is not news to anybody. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it is, but you look at these last two guys, Heinrich Haarberg and now Richard Torres in the class of 2022, and like you said, Schaefer, you notice that they are a little bit different from Adrian Martinez, Luke McCaffrey, and Logan Smothers, in that it seems to me that they have not necessarily devalued athleticism, but put more of an emphasis on the value of the person being able to make the throws, arm talent, if you will,
More on arm strength.
arm
certainly.
strength. Yeah. So that's all there for Torres. And I was watching the cut ups today, and they're running an offense that he's not really getting the ball out very quickly. There's a lot of like,
I don't think
7-step
the
drops.
team he plays for is particularly that good.
There's just a lot. There's like they were doing a lot of screens, so that tells you kind of a little bit of
Mhm.
what they're doing. But there's a lot of 7-step drops, and then he kind of has to roll out and make a play and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there was a few in there where he got the ball out quick, and I think that's still going to be a staple of this offense. Those swing passes that people love to talk about. And you just you have to be able to make those throws, and then if Nebraska can put the appropriate guys around these players, wide receivers who can win perimeter battles on the edge one-on-one, he's capable of putting it on the money. He's capable of making the throw. So that's it seems to me that they've put a premium on that in the last class or two here. And that's a little bit of a departure from the first run around, I guess, when the staff got here.
And from the forward-thinking aspect, when Torres gets here, which I believe he's already anticipating being an early enrollee, which is just the nature of quarterbacks anymore.
Yep.
So he would be putting himself squarely in the mix to replace Adrian Martinez, which is the expectation for the 2022 season. So then you're talking about you already know three names as it sits right now: Logan Smothers, Heinrich Haarberg, Richard Torres.
Richie.
Unless there's another one added, one of those is going to be your starter in Ireland in 2022. So he would have the worst odds. Worst is the best.
Okay.
You'd have the worst odds out of that group, you would
Oh
imagine.
gosh, are we doing that? Should we play that game right now?
It feels early. Let's play the game.
Should we get out the book?
Do we know how to?
So I think you would have four options. It would be
Adrian comes back.
okay if you want to do that, you'd have five options.
Masker would be the fourth option.
You do Logan, Heinrich, Haarberg, transfer portal, Torres, Adrian comes back.
Transfer portal might have better odds than
Any of them.
Quite frankly, transfer portal should have the best odds.
I agree, but it's like
this is one of those things that it's roving. Like
yes,
you get into the year and Nebraska in mop-up duty and Heinrich Haarberg or Logan Smothers looks really good, and you actually get to see what they are, then that changes how much you might need to venture into the
I don't think
portal.
any one of those options would be better than like plus 450 at the moment. On this day, and this is
This day is June 14th. Also Flag Day.
June
Is this Flag
14th.
Day?
Oh, is it really? Wow. Happy birthday to flags, I guess. June 14th,
Flag Day.
2021. I currently do not know who the starting quarterback will be, in August of 2022. Not an issue. That's okay. That's relatively normal, I think, in college football.
Oh yeah.
But there is no front runner. There is no heir apparent at this point.
Yeah.
So that changes the conversation, I guess, a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Torres is going to be able to throw his hat immediately into that ring, which is I assume part of the sell to him.
Absolutely. And then the other news from the weekend, we talked about it a little bit again at the beginning. Tyreek Johnson is indeed joining Nebraska's program. Second year in a row, a high-profile defensive back joins in the summer. Second year in a row, you're going to get the same exact spiel from one Mike Schaefer. It's a lottery ticket. You have no idea exactly what you're getting with Tyreek Johnson, but 10 out of 10 times with a spot available, and you can get a guy in June with that kind of talent or presumed talent, you take it. Like it's a no-brainer to me. Like, I don't think
absolutely.
I don't know that I have a ton of expectations either way for him. I mean, he largely played special teams for Ohio State. It was hard for him to break through on a depth chart that was absolutely loaded from the moment that he was there to the moment that he was left.
Especially
one of the
best at that position. Yeah.
One of the best defensive back position rooms in the country.
Right.
Like to get through, you're going, if you can play at Ohio State in the first and second or third or fourth quarter, when it's still a game at safety or at corner, your chances of being drafted are what, 98% right now?
High, very high.
So I wouldn't look at it and be like, oh, this guy couldn't get on the field, he must not be very good. No, he needed to change of scenery. This is why the transfer portal exists. And so we'll see how it plays out for Nebraska. It's very easy. You take the chance. If he gives you something, he gives you something. If he doesn't, you had two spots to fill as it was.
Nebraska hasn't had, and like you said, lottery ticket is a good way to say it. I think best case scenario here, assuming he gets here and everything's all good, and I don't know when the anticipated arrival date for him would be. Is it now? Is it July?
I would maybe guess the second 5-week session.
Sure. Because they're already in the first one.
I think so.
So yeah, probably the second.
Yep.
So, at some point in July, best case scenario, he gets himself acclimated and he is usable depth for Nebraska this year. I think
the same as Nadab Joseph.
Same as Nadab Joseph. Same as Jakeem Green would have been a couple years ago. But with that being said, Nebraska hasn't necessarily.
Same as a quick blinker guy.
Will Jackson.
Yeah,
Will Jackson.
Which,
yes.
I mean, this is what it is. That's that kind of addition, and I don't want to make more of it than it actually is. I was going to give this comparison. In a lot of ways, it feels like this is a defensive version of an Oliver Martin, except you're using a scholarship versus him walking on. It's a guy that was believed to be that had a ton of talent. It didn't work out at a place, or in Martin's case, 2 other places. And maybe by the end of the season, that talent is flashing to the point that you're talking about said player as a bigger part of whatever it is going forward.
That's the hope.
And then, if it works out and you can hit on guys like that, it feels free. Like it's not like Nebraska invested a ton of time in recruiting them and it was going to be a big deal one way or the other. It very much was probably, hey, we could use a defensive back.
Uh-huh.
We're not getting a Caleb Evans, the kid from Tulsa.
Yep. Who ended up at Missouri.
I think he chose Missouri over Notre Dame. Yeah.
Sure.
So why not take a chance here? And
no, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And now they got one other spot to, getting up to that 25 for the initial counters. And my guess would be they sit back, and if something falls into their lap, it does. And if not, you just put it in your pocket and you go on from there. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see what happens with that other spot, but Tyreek Johnson, yeah, best case scenario here, he ends up, he could be, you don't know, but he could end up being the third or fourth corner this year or something like that. I think their top 2 is pretty defined.
It feels like
with the way we came out of spring
and Newsome.
Yeah.
And I think Braxton Clark's going to play a bunch, but he may not be a starter.
Yeah.
And if Johnson works himself into being,
so he immediately kind of goes into the Nadab Joseph area.
And if I have it correct, he would have 2 seasons of eligibility.
Oh man. See, I tried to look into it and I don't know.
It's very confusing.
It is. With the whole extra year thing, it's impossible.
Right. And so I think he would have 2, potentially 3.
So he was in the 18 class,
Right.
redshirted in 18, then played as a redshirt freshman in 19.
Right.
Redshirt sophomore in 20, redshirt sophomore again in 21. So that would make him
3 years worth of
3
eligibility.
years.
Yeah. But potentially.
Theoretically.
Yep. This is going to be
Parker might know.
obnoxious.
Parker might know.
Yeah. Well, we will. Let's get
Yeah.
to Parker. Let's take a break. We're going to come back with Parker Gabriel. We're going to dive into Nebraska's commitments from this weekend. We'll get his thoughts on how things set up. I believe he was over doing 7-on-7. He wrote about the son of Dominic Raiola.
Yeah, that was cool. That's a good little story. Yeah.
Full disclosure, massively scooped on that.
Wow.
Like saw the tweet when I was in between a hand grenade and a hurricane.
That's not your job.
And I was just like, I'm on vacation right now.
Nice.
And I put the phone back down. I read the story. Parker does great work. And so I want to get into a lot of what we've seen over the weekend, and we will do that next with Parker Gabriel.
You're listening to the Recruiting Hour with Mike Schaefer and Connor Happer on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Charlie Stone here for Honda of Lincoln, and before I bring out Andy Goodyear, I want to share this with you. I'm sure you've heard most auto dealers are very low or have no new cars to sell. For those of you who really want or need a new or pre-owned vehicle right now, Honda of Lincoln has more than 900 new Hondas in stock or on the way, and a great selection of pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Plus, you can still get financing from 0% APR or special factory lease rates. Andy, how did you get so many cars?
There are 3 primary reasons. 1, we are the oldest and largest volume Honda dealer in Nebraska. 2, we are a 15-time Honda President's Award winning dealer and the only Nebraska dealer to receive it in 2020. And 3, our customer satisfaction index with Honda is very high. When you combine all 3, Honda helps us have the cars and trucks on our lot.
Thanks, Andy. Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
No doubt about it, a water softener saves you money. Don't have one? Call the plumbers at Bryant. Just one call and no arm-twisting contracts. For a free estimate, call 467-1111 or go to bryantlincoln.com.
The dangers of secondhand smoke are well known. But what about secondhand aerosol, which is created when using e-cigarettes? Science already shows a secondhand aerosol can contain nicotine, heavy metals, and cancer-causing agents. Eliminating exposure to secondhand aerosol is an important step to keeping everyone safe. Breathe easier knowing the facts.
For help quitting, call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Baseball's back, and it's time to celebrate, Lincoln. We're inviting fans back to Haymarket Park to join in the fun for the Salt Dogs' 20th season. Pick out single-game tickets and plot your own Salt Dog schedule around promos and deals. Come to Haymarket Park for Nebraska Medical Association Thank You Tuesdays, Fairbury brand Wiener Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, Fireworks Fridays, Souvenir Saturdays, and Sunday Family Fun Days brought to you by Casey's. Get your tickets for the Salt Dogs celebration season at saltdogs.com.
One unforgettable event. One chance to get up close and personal with some of the greatest names in golf. One opportunity to create memories that will last a lifetime. Get your tickets now for the U.S. Senior Open. Coming to Omaha July 5th through the 11th at the Omaha Country Club. If you're looking for family fun for all ages, this is one championship you don't want to miss. For tickets, visit ussenioropen.com.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings might be the hardest thing about getting those savings. Save for simply becoming an Allstate customer. Save more for adding DriveWise. And save even more for driving safely. Visit Allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. Allstate. Minimum effort, maximum reward.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. Drive-bys is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
At Mountain Dew, we support the best and baddest disaster relief group in America, Team Rubicon. To show our support of Team Rubicon, Mountain Dew put in $1 million. And now you can help Team Rubicon too. Look for specially marked Team Rubicon bottles of Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew, and Mountain Dew Zero Sugar. Enter for a chance to win weekly prizes at MountainDewTR.com and donate to Team Rubicon. You'll earn exclusive rewards when you do. No purchase necessary. U.S. residents 18 and older. Subject to rules at MountainDewTR.com. Ends 10/3/2020.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
We'll see a slight chance of scattered thunderstorms, but the bigger story, the heat, will top out near 95 this afternoon with a light southeast wind at around 10. Partly cloudy to mainly clear tonight with a low of 67. We're right back up to 95 again tomorrow, and by Wednesday, could be near 100. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Mike Schaefer here with 5-star child care provider Lee Beecher from Bubbles and Blocks. Let's start with what makes Bubbles and Blocks special.
We have 3 beautiful locations in Lincoln that provide the safety, security, and reliability you need while also bringing a family feel to each classroom at every location.
I also hear some congratulations are in order.
Thank you. Yes, we just won the Lincoln Choice Award for Best Daycare and Preschool for the 3rd year in a row.
What should people do if they want to join the Bubbles and Blocks family?
Call to set up a tour to enroll your child today, or you can visit bubblesandblocks.com to apply to join our team.
Back to the Recruiting Hour with Mike Schaefer and Connor Happer. Presented by Bubbles and Blocks. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Hour. Mike Schaefer, Connor Happer, and on the line, ready to join us, the inventor of the phrase "Hap Dog." It is Parker Gabriel. Parker, how we doing?
What's up? He's a hap dog, not a lap dog.
It's true. I don't know what exactly a hap dog is, but if I've ever met one, it is Connor Happer.
Yeah, it's Happer. That's who he is.
Not a lap dog. A hap dog.
Not a lap. Decidedly not a lap.
Were you familiar that Happer's original nickname on this show or by this station was the Hapster?
Hapster.
Hapster. I did not know that.
Yeah, named after Sean Napster.
Sometimes Twitter, sometimes too much of my information comes from Twitter, so I only knew about Curter.
I have phased out Hapster. I don't know why. I changed
He hated it.
I wanted to move on. And it felt like Curter was the best new one.
Yeah.
Now it's Hap Dog, not Lap Dog.
Yeah, got it. That's excellent. You're sort of like a cicada. You got to shed the exoskeleton and keep morphing.
Well, and the other great thing
Adapt
is that,
or die.
He can have multiple personalities with Curter. When he's angry, he's just Kurt. We've seen that a few times too, and so it works out well. All right, Parker. So there is a lot happening with Nebraska football, which I know you and I are just shocked. We never envisioned the month of June would play out in which the kids that had not been able to visit have now visited and are starting to commit. I know this is just a stunning phenomenon. Who could have seen this coming? A class that started slowly is now gaining steam because the players that have come to campus are indeed choosing them following a 16-month period in which they couldn't visit at all. So I think we're vindicated in our belief that the hand wringing was once again too premature.
It would have been problematic if I would have spent months writing about how stuff will start happening in June and then it didn't. So, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely, that the rush is on, so to speak. I think, 3 a transfer commitments for the 2021 class and 2 verbal commitments for the 2022 class in the first 14 days. And Nebraska's had 15 official visitors on campus, 14 for the 22 class plus Tyreek Johnson in the first 2 weeks. So yeah, I think I think it's safe to say there's more activity to come still.
Would it be safe to say, or would it be controversial to say that today's news, this Monday news, Richard Torres' commitment is the biggest thing that's happened for Nebraska recruiting wise, regardless of month? But this is the biggest recruiting news they've had, I feel like, going back to the days in January when they were getting some transfer portal wins.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, obviously for this year, Tyreek Johnson, even if he doesn't win a starting job, he's going to be on the team this year. So there's an immediacy factor there. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you go back to, if you take this calendar year for sure, I mean, the only other, the biggest news, and don't get me wrong, I mean, the start of their class, I mean, they like the guys that are in the class
Hausman
so far.
and Victor Jones.
With Victor Jones and Ernest Hausman earlier on, and then Chase Androff this month. You know, the biggest news besides that really was the development about the guys in state that weren't coming here. So Nebraska's really done a good job of lining up a lot of guys who, I mean, it's like every guy you talk to that's visited the last 2 weeks, you know, I guess it's not a big surprise, but Nebraska's not just right in it with them or in the top 8 or whatever. I mean, they're right there for a lot of these guys. And so it's not a big shock to see the dominoes start falling, but I do think that there's probably a little bit of relief in addition to the excitement for the Nebraska staff.
So is it 3 years of eligibility for Tyreek Johnson?
Yeah, correct. So he redshirted in 18, played each of the past 2 years. Last year didn't count, so he's essentially a redshirt sophomore.
Redshirt sophomore. What's the you just mentioned it there a little bit, but he joins a defensive back room that it seemed like from the spring was pretty well defined at the top corner and the second corner with Cam Taylor-Britt and Quentin Newsome, and then Braxton Clark's there as well. You also have Nadab Joseph in the room. Best case scenario, he gets here, everything, you know, turns out okay for him. How does his fall play out?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be easy to just, you know, get here over the summer and beat out Quentin Newsome for a starting job.
Right.
I really don't. They like Newsome a lot. He's put in a lot of work, you know, but I think you look at this, and when you take the eligibility that Tyreek Johnson has left, and, you know, I talked to him this morning and he said, like all of the DBs, you know, he knows he's going to cross train some, but they like him as a corner. You know, that's where his ticket is. And so, at least to start off. And so that competition, you know, yeah, you're competing, starting job, you know, a role somewhere, in sub packages maybe this year. And then, you know, Cam Taylor-Britt, I mean, we know he's going to leave after this year. And so then it's sort of almost after 2021 when it's really going to be wide open. Then you've got, you know, Newsome, Clark, Nadab Joseph, and really young guys. You know, you feel a little bit like, let's say Quentin Newsome starts this year and plays really well all year. Okay, it's going to feel different one way or the other after the season than it does right now. And when you're thinking about what are they going to look like in 22, but one way or the other, having another guy who has played at the Power 5 level in the Big Ten, and has some eligibility left. You're just adding depth to the room for not only 2021 but beyond.
So this month is we're almost halfway through it, and it feels like this week in particular could be one in which is the fulcrum, if you will. You've gotten a couple commitments, Androff and Torres, Tyreek Johnson as well. But it feels like there's some other guys that are relatively close out there that could be looking to make a decision, certainly in the month of June, but maybe even on the front side of things. Are there a certain group or a couple guys that you're really watching closely coming off of this last visit weekend or even the first one?
Yeah, I think, you know, definitely, you know, the receiver's really interesting, you know, and they had one visitor the first week in Landon Sampson, and then one this past week in Grant Page from Boulder, Colorado. And, you know, those guys both, Page was on a visit the first week to Kansas State, and Sampson was on an unofficial visit to Ohio State this past weekend with his high school quarterback, Quinn Ewers, who's committed to Ohio State. And, you know, by the way, happens to be the number 1 overall ranked player in the country by 24/7. So those two guys, as far as we know, at least, we think the visits there are done. So that puts them in a very interesting category where it's like, does Nebraska have one spot for those two guys? Will they take them both? Neither of those guys have visits lined up after this. So now we sort of think like, you know, that's a spot where you could definitely see movement. And then I wonder, you know, Valen Erickson, the offensive lineman, told me after his Nebraska visit that he was going to visit Tennessee later this month. Illinois has offered him since he visited Nebraska. So he might have more visits in the tank, but there's guys like that too, where you just wonder like, hey, if the time feels right, maybe you decide to make a call rather than wait out the whole month.
So with kind of all of this going on with 2022, you also just have all these other events Nebraska's hosting this month. There was Friday Night Lights, the June 4th, I think, was the first one. And it was all 2023s that were basically jumping out at that point in time. You have all the private workouts of the 2022 class kids that are happening. You have 7-on-7, which I'm sure you were over at this past weekend. The big man camp coming up this weekend. What other storylines have emerged for you beyond just the official visitors at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the workouts have just been sort of interesting to follow, and the number of offers that Nebraska's made out of that have dipped a little bit.
Yeah, the over definitely hit.
What was that?
The over definitely hit. I think we had 3.5 or 4.5 maybe.
Did we get the 4? We got the 4. Right?
I think it was 4.5 maybe, and we've seen that many offers, so it has definitely played out.
Yeah. But then the thing, one of the things I think has been sort of an interesting development, and it's a coincidence just in the sense of like Nebraska got its 2022 quarterback today. I really think that the next two, there's this like sort of beginning to sort of not crystallize, but it's coming into focus a little bit in terms of what the quarterback situation looks like for the next two classes, maybe. 24, there's a long way to go, but Nebraska offers Daniel Kaelin, and they've got Dylan Raiola coming to campus this week. He's going to throw at Friday Night Lights. That's obviously Dominic Raiola's son. Georgia's already offered him. Washington State's already offered him. He's worked out for, if you can name a blue blood college football program, Dylan Raiola's probably been invited to throw for him this month. So that's interesting. Those two guys just as a starting point for the class. And then in 23, Reese Mooney's the only guy Nebraska's offered. But you've got a couple other guys that are interesting, and you mentioned the 7-on-7 camp, Shafe. J.J. Cole from Ankeny, Iowa looked really good, and he's picked up offers from Iowa and Iowa State in the past 2 weeks. Nebraska, certainly he caught Nebraska's eye this week. I don't know if there's an offer coming, but there's the ability to get out and evaluate in person, and I think we'll see this when Raiola throws this week. Like, it just helps so much in the confidence in the evaluations, and so the dominoes aren't falling, but the way they're sort of lining up at quarterback for the next two cycles is pretty interesting.
I wondered if there was some connection there. J.J. Cole's dad is the director of Cole's kicking camp.
Yeah, Jamie Cole. Yeah, yep, and yes, that's exactly right. And so it's interesting because they're from a part of the world that Nebraska staff is just really
tied in,
familiar with, right? Like Mario Verduzco coached at Northern Iowa for a long time. Eric Sanders from Iowa and coached at Northern Iowa. So like, there's all this. There was like this. My perception of it was yesterday. There was this sort of light bulb of like, wait, that's Jamie Cole's kid, and he's 6'6", and he moves like that and throws it like that. That's interesting. So it started off like when I got to Memorial Stadium. I said this morning too. When I got to Memorial Stadium at 9:00, it was kind of like, Lincoln Southeast is here, Creighton Prep's here. There's this kid from Iowa that's supposedly pretty good. And then by the end of the camp, J.J. Cole was like the buzz of the place, such that existed. But he definitely was the talk of the day. It makes a very interesting situation.
You didn't have to cut yourself off at the knees with that last comment there.
Well, let's be real. It wasn't like there was 4,000 people there,
Right.
It was a smattering of reporters and parents and stuff, but there's also a lot of Nebraska staffers around, and I think they noticed the big kid from Iowa.
Man, that could be a collaborative Nebraska media podcast just called The Smattering.
Smattering. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it might, but smattering, it could be, or it might need to be called the Horde.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
more likely.
As it relates to recruiting and sort of that part of the world, though, the smattering definitely smattering's the perfect word to describe those of us that are combing the fields. Let's finish with this. The workouts have I felt like been pretty well received from the recruit end of it. Have you had any conversations that lead you to believe that Nebraska is enjoying this as much as the kids are as well? The ability to just have these guys come in and work out at a moment's notice. And do you think that this is something that could continue forward?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you've gotten it definitely from the kids side in talking to the guys that have been able to work out, and just, in talking with several people on Nebraska side of things over the past few days and couple weeks. I mean, I think they think it's really useful, and I think coaches all over the country think that, and it's something that would make a ton of sense to keep. It's made this month even more of a grind than it was already going to be, because they've done most of these workouts in the morning, and guys are either just coming off long days on the road, or Friday morning at 9 a.m., you've got kids that are on campus. You're obviously there working before that. And then official visitors show up, and it might be, you're talking about 6 a.m. to midnight kind of days this month. But that's the way it was going to be this month anyways. And I think that they've got good information, good data, good, metrics, and a feel for how kids take coaching and all of that through these workouts. And I think they've found some guys like that kicker from Morningside, Frankie, who kicked the other day. I mean, you can walk in and have people not really know who you are or not know much about you, and walk out with the coaching staff saying, like, this guy might actually be able to really help us.
Yeah.
And that's not something that kids have been able to do for more than a year now. So it's really nice, and it's really cool that we got back to the point where that can happen.
All right, Parker, thanks for your time as always, and keep killing it with the coverage over there. I said before we had you on, the Riola thing, massive scoop, props to you, great work with it, and it's been fun to follow.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mike. I'm glad you're back from New Orleans safely, and I'm glad that you once again get to share a studio with a half dog.
It is a privilege and an honor to be talking to both of you at the same time. Where just the greatest three beards, a triumvirate of beards in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, that could be our podcast.
It's another podcast.
Yeah, we're great at podcast.
We love
names.
podcasts.
We don't want to actually do the podcast. That's my takeaway. All right, Parker, we appreciate it.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll finish up the show, dive into San Antonio, where Richard Torres is from. As you know, when Nebraska gets commits, we talk about their hometown. So that'll be next. And I'm going to throw a question at Happer that I know will make him angry, just so he's nice and ready to go for his own show at 3.
You're listening to the Recruiting Hour with Mike Schaefer and Connor Happer on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Summertime is here and the temperature is rising. Beat the heat at the Pawnee Plunge Water Park in Columbus all summer long. Pawnee Plunge features a full day of fun for the whole family, including the flow ride, the only one in Nebraska, a large swimming pool, diving boards, a lazy river, climbing wall, and of course, massive water slides. It's a great place for parties or a great spot to lounge around all day long. Book your party by calling 402-562-4269. Come splash and play the Pawnee Plunge Way in Columbus from May 31st through August 8th.
One unforgettable event. One chance to get up close and personal with some of the greatest names in golf. One opportunity to create memories that will last a lifetime. Get your tickets now for the U.S. Senior Open, coming to Omaha July 5th through the 11th at the Omaha Country Club. If you're looking for family fun for all ages, this is one championship you don't want to miss. For tickets, visit ussenioropen.com.
Hi, Charlie Stone here for Honda of Lincoln, and before I bring out Andy Goodyear, I want to share this with you. I'm sure you've heard most auto dealers are very low or have no new cars to sell. For those of you who really want or need a new or pre-owned vehicle right now, Honda of Lincoln has more than 900 new Hondas in stock or on the way, and a great selection of pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Plus, you can still get financing from 0% APR or special factory lease rates. Andy, how did you get so many cars?
There are three primary reasons. One, we are the oldest and largest volume Honda dealer in Nebraska. Two, we are a 15-time Honda President's Award winning dealer and the only Nebraska dealer to receive it in 2020. And three, Our customer satisfaction index with Honda is very high. When you combine all three, Honda helps us have the cars and trucks on our lot.
Thanks, Andy. Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
We'll see a slight chance of scattered thunderstorms, but the bigger story, the heat, will top out near 95 this afternoon with a light southeast wind at around 10. Partly cloudy to mainly clear tonight with a low of 67. We're right back up to 95 again tomorrow, and by Wednesday, could be near 100. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Mike Schaefer here with 5-star child care provider Lee Beecher from Bubbles and Blocks. Let's start with what makes Bubbles and Blocks special.
We have 3 beautiful locations in Lincoln that provide the safety, security, and reliability you need while also bringing a family feel to each classroom at every location.
I also hear some congratulations are in order.
Thank you. Yes, we just won the Lincoln Choice Award for Best Daycare and Preschool for the 3rd year in a row.
What should people do if they want to join the Bubbles and Blocks family?
Call to set up a tour to enroll your child today, or you can visit bubblesandblocks.com to apply to join our team.
This Father's Day weekend, make plans to stop by the Testicle Festival at Round the Bend Steakhouse. They'll have 2 beer gardens with ice-cold beer, hot nuts, Rocky Mountain oysters, beef fries, bull testicles, and if you can't handle that, there's burgers, corn dogs, and nachos. Live DJ from 2 p.m. to midnight and live entertainment 4 p.m. to midnight. $10 cover charge, but free for military personnel. It's the Midwest's best field party, the Testicle Festival at Round the Bend Steakhouse, starting at 11 a.m. on Saturday, June 19th. You can't cancel D's nuts.
Baseball's back, and it's time to celebrate, Lincoln. We're inviting fans back to Haymarket Park to join in the fun for the Salt Dogs 20th season. Pick out single-game tickets and plot your own Salt Dog schedule around promos and deals. Come to Haymarket Park for Nebraska Medical Association Thank You Tuesdays, Fairbury brand Wiener Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, Fireworks Fridays, Souvenir Saturdays, and Sunday Family Fun Days brought to you by Casey's. Get your tickets for the Salt Dogs celebration season at saltdogs.com.
Hey guys, it's Happer. Join me and Robbie this Friday at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese for the drive from 3 to 6. Check out their huge variety of meats and take some home to grill for the weekend. That's Friday from 3 to 6 at the Mercado, just north of 84th and Havelock.
Now through June 16th, get moving with the Planet Fitness Black Card for zero enrollment, $22.99 a month, and check out all the perks, like access to over 2,000 locations. Bring a guest anytime, plus massage chairs and so much more, with tons of space in our super clean clubs. Your fitness is essential. Get all the perks of the PF Black Card for zero enrollment and $22.99 a month. Deal ends June 16th.
With 2 Lincoln locations, just east of 27th and Folkways and 48th and Van Dorn.
Commitment may apply. See club for details.
Back to the Recruiting Hour with Mike Schaefer and Connor Happer. Presented by Bubbles and Blocks. On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Recruiting Hour. Mike Schaefer, Connor Happer, finishing up the show here. I did not forget about the opening splash. Okay, I did forget about it. But
you want to splash?
We're going to have the closing splash brought to you by the Pawnee Plunge in Columbus, Nebraska. If I wasn't having my bachelor party in New Orleans, the Pawnee Plunge might have been the next choice, given how hot it was here, I'm told, over the weekend. In New Orleans, it was just New Orleans, which is unbearably warm and humid.
Just damp.
Yeah, everything was sticky.
Yep. I told you this.
Everything was, well, and I've been down there, but it's just like there's no way to really prepare for it.
There is not. That you can't do anything.
The locals just look at you like, yeah, this is what it is. Like this is what we know. You don't necessarily become accustomed to it, but you don't really have any other choice. So here we are. And well, quite frankly, they needed a Pawnee Plunge in New Orleans. I would have gone. But it's in Columbus. Make sure you get up there. Great time to do it and enjoy yourself that way. All right, Happer.
Okay.
Tell us about San Antonio.
Okay, so I always do this, but population guess, not city, metro area. Yeah, metro area.
4.8 million.
I'm getting 2.5.
That seems low.
Million. I thought it seemed low as well.
Okay.
Quite a large city, obviously. Media market number
11.
31.
That seems low.
That seems low as well. I would agree, but it's behind, all the main ones that you know about.
I guess it's sort of because the media market would be different than Austin, even though they basically have grown into each other at this point.
Roughly the size of, comparable cities, Nashville, Kansas City.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Milwaukee.
11 was aggressive.
It's the home of many different schools and many different school districts. South Side High School, which is where Richard Torres goes. That's in its own kind of little district. Yeah, this is. San Antonio is one of the easier ones to do, but it doesn't have quite as many, like quirks that I could just say, oh, they had a town.
Yeah, I mean, you could just say Alamo. And we'd be done.
You have the Alamo, you got the Riverwalk, and that's the story.
Yeah, and you have not been to San Antonio.
I have not. People have told me to do it though.
I have a recommendation for you if you ever go there, or if there's anyone listening that goes to San Antonio. There's a bar that Brunson and I came across twice. We were down there for Nebraska's NCAA basketball tournament.
Oh, yes,
appearance.
That's right. They did play there.
Yep. And then we were down there for the Army All-American Bowl, takes place at the Alamo Dome. And so they have the week of practice and everything. There is an outdoor area called the Friendly Spot that basically they just salvaged a bunch of things and have this big yard and have little bars set up and all these different kind of like salvage stage.
I love it.
Things. There's like fire pits. It's just like a very friendly, very cool spot to go and drink.
I love it.
The Friendly Spot is all the thumbs up from me.
Sounds friendly.
So that is my San Antonio recommendation. I was trying to think of other famous Nebraska players that came out of there. Tommy Armstrong lived in San Antonio at one point in time.
Played his high school in the area. Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think of another one. I'm sure the text line would know as well. But San Antonio has a strong Nebraska history because of the Alamo Bowl. They've been down there several times. And all the people I know that have gone down there
3 times in the last 20 years.
The Riverwalk is fun. You don't have to do it a lot. It's a very touristy but fun thing to do. But San Antonio, good spot. All right. That was my return show. We'll be back tomorrow. Catch you then.
Listening to this Allstate commercial about savings